Hey, beautiful humans, welcome back. I'm Mel from Wellness with Mel, and I'm joined today by Pri from Let's Talk Mental Health Wellness. And today we're diving into a topic that literally shapes our reality, our self-talk. And what I mean by self-talk is, that little voice narrating your life or that voice living rent-free in your head. And sometimes this can be your biggest cheerleader. It can be your hype girl. And sometimes, though, this can be the mean girl. And I know that you all know what I mean. So today we're here to unpack this with you, the good, the not so good, and how to actually flip the scripts for powerful results. So, Pri, I'm curious to know, when did you first realize your inner voice had that much influence on you?
Wow, such a good question. I used to think the biggest influence in my life were the people around me, family, friends, teachers, and society. But with time, I discovered something more powerful than all of them combined, my inner voice. And how big was that? There was a moment somewhere along my healing journey when I realized just how much that voice shaped my reality. I had been through so much, carrying pain, grief, and uncertainty. And in one quiet, reflective moment, I heard it clearly. Not the noise of the world, but my own words to myself. At first, I noticed, how critical and doubting that voice could be. But then instead of staying stuck in that awareness, I chose something different. I chose curiosity. I asked myself, what if this voice could become my greatest supporter? What if I could rewrite the script I tell myself every day? And that was the beginning of everything shifting. Slowly, gently, I began to speak to myself with kindness and not in grand, exaggerated ways, but in small, loving truths. Like, you're trying and that is enough. You're growing even when it doesn't feel like it. You deserve compassion, especially from yourself. And these things changed so much. The more I nurtured this new inner voice, the more I felt grounded, connected not just to healing, but to hope. My self talk became a place of comfort, of truth, and honestly, a quiet kind of strength. It helped me rebuild the way I saw myself and gave me courage to keep going, even when things felt uncertain. Now, I see self talk as a sacred daily practice, a way of coming home to myself again and again. And I don't see it as, something to fix or force something on me, but to gently remind myself that I am enough, I am worthy, and I am healing. But the real question is, what is self talk? So, self talk is the ongoing inner dialogue you have with yourself, your thoughts, beliefs, and internal responses to the world around you. It's the quiet voice in your mind that speaks when you succeed, when you make a mistake, when you're trying something new, or when you're simply, sitting in stillness. So, this voice could be supportive, like a wise, loving friend, saying things like, "You've got this. It's okay to take your
Yeah,
time." Or it could be a critical voice, like an old wound repeating itself, like, "You're not doing enough. Why even try?" etc.
mm,
Whether we realize it or not, this internal conversation shapes how we feel, how we act, and how we treat ourselves. It affects our confidence, emotional health, motivation, and even how we show up in our relationships. The beautiful thing about all of this is self talk is not fixed. It can be softened, reshaped, and healed. And just like any relationship, the one we have with ourselves can evolve with awareness and intention. And I love that. Learning
oh,
to
me too.
Yeah.
I just love, yeah, again, I can feel that from you. And like, it's, yeah, like everything you've said, so super important, Pri. And I just love you sharing this with everyone.
Thank you. I guess learning to speak to yourself with kindness, patience, and the belief, that the belief isn't about ignoring the challenges. It's basically about meeting them with compassion and learning to be on your own side. Um, what do you think, about this? Or yeah, any thoughts?
Yeah, so much that you said then. One of the very first things you said about coming home to yourself, and I was like, oh yes, like I feel that, like I get that, and I think a lot of people listening would be the same of that, like coming home to yourself, and also that you're not looking at it like, okay, I need to fix this, like I need to fix me, like there's something wrong. It's just having that awareness, and I think that's where it all starts because until we're aware of it, we can't do much about it, and I totally agree that the way that you speak to yourself, it's probably the most important relationship you have is with yourself. And, it can be one of a really like demanding, low vibration, negative one, or it can really be a nurturing one. And the cool thing about it is that you get to choose how you want that voice to sound, what you want that voice to sound like. So, again, being aware and then just again choosing, which
Yeah.
is something we can all do. We have the power to choose, right?
Yeah.
And so if we talk on the negative side of it, so we've all heard negative self-talk, and I think every single person listening to this, watching this, I don't think you'd find anyone who hasn't experienced it. So
Yeah.
I think we all understand what negative self-talk is and really how it affects us too, because the way we talk to ourselves does affect our energy. It affects our nervous system, our stress. And so if we're talking to ourselves in a really negative way, then we are producing those stress hormones within our body. And so negative self-talk, if I give examples, can be things like I can't, right? So it's anything that is stopping you from doing whatever it is that you are trying to achieve or do. So it's the I can't is a big red flag. The I'm not good enough, or I'm a failure, or why would I even bother starting because I'm probably not going to succeed? All of these things are thoughts in the moment that stop us in our tracks. And that's how we know if this is negative self talk or negative, which leads to negative behavior. And so, negative self talk, it's actually a bad habit. So it affects our body, increasing our stress hormones, but it is just a habit. And what do we know about habits? Is that we can make new ones, we can change them. And so that's what we're here today to bring awareness about is that, yeah, we all have negative self talk at times, like I do too. But it's having the awareness to then flip the script on that and decide how I want to show up for myself. And so we talked, when we talk about how we feel it in our bodies, the effect of the stress, what that does is if we are like, it's like if you have a boss who's always berating you, right, and tearing you down, it doesn't make you feel great. And so we're doing that to ourselves every day, our self-talk. And so it can lead to things like anxiety, wild thoughts forming around your mind. It lowers your confidence. And it really does it it avoids you from growing or from growth opportunities that may be available because the first thing that comes up is just like it's like a big wall that goes up or a big screen and it's like, "Bruh, I can't," right? And so you're actually stopping yourself from some great things that may be just within your reach. And another thing, it also distorts the view of our own abilities, this self talk, because we may be thinking or experiencing things in one way and how we talk about ourselves in one way. And a close friend or a family member might see us in a totally different light. And it's because we are putting that talk on ourselves. We are putting all those emotions into into the thoughts and into the way we do things. And it is all driven by ourselves. So, negative self-talk when it appears, it's really there to keep us safe, right? And back in the day, yeah, we might have needed that. But today we don't need that so much anymore. And we can find safety within ourselves. And so what I find is that negative self-talk, it keeps you playing small. It convinces you that small is safe.
Mhm.
And it's really having the choice to go, you know what? I know there's more for me. And I know that I get to choose how I want to show up. So it really is, again, you have the power, you have the choice.
Mhm.
And that's what we want to bring to you today. And just bring this into your awareness. So, Pri, have you had a moment where positive self-talk really made a difference to you?
Yeah, and I have, and not one, but multiple instances. But just before that, I love the perspective of keeping it just the negative self-talk keep me. It's actually like a mechanism to help you feel safe, and that it
Yeah.
convinces you to the just to be small and do small. And I love that perspective, and which is so true as well. Like I think it really makes sense. But I think a lot of people don't even realize where it's coming from, why
Mm,
they feel that safe.
yeah.
So yeah, beautifully said. Coming
Oh,
back,
thank you.
coming back to positive self-talk. So there was a moment when I was, standing at crossroads, feeling um, called to step into something deeper, to turn my own healing into something meaningful by supporting others on their journeys. The idea of becoming a mental health and wellness coach stirred something powerful in me, but along with it came the fear, the self doubt, and that familiar voice asking, will I be able to do this? It would have been easy to shrink, to believe the old stories and, just believe in that negative self talk. Um, but I paused. I closed my eyes and said to myself, you've walked through darkness with courage. You've learned to rise. Your story matters, and so does your desire to help others. And I think genuinely my purpose is just that if I can make small differences to a lot of people, that's my calling. And
Yeah.
that simple moment of self affirmation shifted everything. I felt a new kind of strength, a quiet confidence rising from within. I didn't need to have it all figured out. I just needed to trust that what I had was enough to begin.
Mm.
And that's that's where it all started. A choice to believe in myself, to speak kindly to the parts that were scared, and to keep moving forward with compassion. And there are multiple times when I'm still scared of, getting to something I have not tried before. But I remind myself that I used to feel that way. I brought compassion to myself. I showed compassion to myself, and it's all going to be okay. I'm going to be able to do it. So I guess
Always.
we can move to what do we mean when we talk about positive self-talk, and also let's talk about its effects. Um, I guess positive self-talk isn't about ignoring pain or pretending everything's fine. It's about changing the relationship we have with ourselves. I think, as I mentioned earlier, especially in the moments when we need love and understanding the most. So often we carry around a critical inner voice shaped by past experiences and unmet expectations, or even fear. I think fear being the major one. This voice can become the loudest one in the room, questioning our words, our choices, and our ability to grow. But when we consciously choose a more compassionate dialogue, something beautiful happens. And I think you'll agree with me, Mel. We've probably had these instances where, we've had to like jolt ourselves out of it and be like, no, listen, it's okay, you can do it. So that's when we
Yeah,
shift.
you've got to be your own hype girl
Oh,
sometimes, your own cheerleader.
exactly. And I'm glad that we are, in that position that we can do that for ourselves. But so many of our clients and, even in the audience, people watching this, uh, yeah, I guess the awareness is so important. And once you have that, it's a practice and it becomes easier with time. So when we shift from, self-judgment to self-support, and positive self-talk acts as a bridge between where we are and where we want to be. It helps us move from survival to possibility, from saying things like, I'm not good enough to I'm learning and that's okay. From I can't do this to I can try and that's a beginning, that's a start. Its effects are powerful and far reaching. The first one is when we face challenges, positive self talk reminds us that struggle doesn't define us. It becomes an anchor that helps us respond with gentleness instead of shame. And that brings us to emotional resilience. The second one is clarity and confidence. Encouraging inner dialogue helps us trust our decisions and, intuitions as well. Believe in our capacity to grow. It replaces paralysis with progress. Another one is healing and self worth. When we speak kindly to ourselves, it activates healing because healing doesn't only come from external validation, but I think majorly comes from internal restoration. It teaches us that we are worthy of our own love and how we show up for others. The way we speak to ourselves mirrors how we show up in our relationships. When our self talk is rooted in compassion, it overflows into how we listen, support, and hold space for others. And as a wellness coach, I have seen this firsthand, not just in my clients, but in myself. Shifting from harsh self criticism to gentle encouragement has the most important step in my own, transformation. It made me more grounded, more empathetic, and more present in my purpose. Um, I guess positive self talk doesn't erase pain. It definitely doesn't, but I think, softens it. It doesn't deny that there are hard days. It just reminds us that we're not alone in them. Would you agree, Mel?
Yeah, absolutely. And, it's that balance too. Like you said, is there's going to be days where we have that talk come through, but we also know that the benefits of the positive self-talk. And yeah, we all have our days and it's fine. There's days where you kick and scream and let it all out. That's fine. But then it's like, can we pick ourselves back up
Mm.
and can we be on top of that and know in the moment we can catch it and we can flip it and we can really use that to give ourselves that place of safety and give ourselves that pump up or that the go ahead to do the things that we're so passionate about, but there's a little bit of fear in the background, which is normal, trying to stop us. But it's like, can we program ourselves to push past that? So yeah, thank you, Pri. Like, I love you sharing, especially with like the coaching and starting out, and that's a big like a big thing for fear to be like, no,
Yeah.
don't do it, or there's a lot of unknowns, it's scary. And again, it's the things that normally the things that you're so passionate about are the things where that fear is going to come up because you care so much about it.
Oh,
So I
Mohammed,
think it's just I love that you shared that, and I think that's so important to share with everyone.
thank you.
So we have a question for you all out there, which is, where are you limiting yourself? And I really want you to think about this for a moment, because these limitations that we feel are usually self-imposed, whether you are aware of it or not. And what I mean by that is it's not that it's not that you can't do it. It's that you've told yourself so many times that you can't, you actually start believing it, right? And I think that rings true. And I hope a lot of people would resonate with that, that it's not that we can't. And especially if we haven't done it before, how do we know we can't? We just tell ourselves that. And so again, we revert back to the program of we can't. So then why do we bother? Why do we try, right? And so every time you say, like, I'm not the person who can do da 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 da, whatever the thing is, you're actually cementing that belief deeper in your identity. So each time it comes up, the fear comes up and the fear's screaming at you, that voice comes up. It's like our program we revert back to, right? So the real limit's not your ability, it's actually the script that you're running in the background. And so sometimes we can be aware of this script and sometimes we can be unaware of it. And I hope today that we do bring your awareness to this. And a tasking that we have for you is, can you see the false reward you are getting from these stories that you're running in the background? And what I mean by reward is the reward you are getting from the old belief, right? What are you gaining from the old belief or the story? And like we said before, it could be with fear, safety, or it could be being comfortable, or, staying in your bubble because it's safe, because it's comfortable, because it's what you know, right? So usually when we look at where these old beliefs are coming up, there is a reward that we are gaining from that. So if I give a bit of an example, it's just say you don't want to go to the event, and on the surface it might be, oh, because I don't have anything to wear, right? Which, I mean, we've all been there. But but in the background, it could actually be the fear of being judged. And so by not going to the event, we aren't exposing ourselves to the possibility of being judged. And that's what I mean by the false reward. The false reward is the safety, it's the not putting ourselves out there. But the only thing that we limit ourselves in that moment is from maybe the connection that we may have got from that event. Maybe we meet that person, or maybe we have that conversation that just gives us everything. And there's so much we can be missing out on because we have these old stories or these beliefs coming through. So a tasking for this week is, I want you to look at the old beliefs or the old stories that you are running a looping in your mind, and I want you to find the false reward that you are receiving from that. And I hope that blows your mind. So I'd love to finish this section with a quote, which when I heard this, I was like, yes, this fits perfectly in this week's. And I really hope this lands for a lot of you. And it's, if you're serious about changing, you will find a way. And if you're not, you will always find an excuse. So,
Love that.
Pri, how does that one land for you?
Oh my God, it definitely lands, and how. I love
Yeah.
that. When, yeah, it just brings so many thoughts to mind. But honestly, at first glance, I think this quote might sound a bit harsh to people. But when you sit gently, when you sit with it more gently, it reveals a deep truth about personal growth and commitment. And I just believe so strongly that this is so true. Change
Yeah.
isn't easy. Whether it's healing from emotional wounds, breaking old patterns, or stepping into a new purpose, it asks something from us, the courage, consistency, willingness, discipline, whatever you want to call it. And here's the thing, the real difference between staying stuck and moving forward often comes down to our intentionality, where
Mm.
we are truly ready when something within us, says enough. We start to look at possibilities instead of barriers. We shift from I can because to how can I? And we become resourceful, we become creative, we become willing to try, even if it means to start small. This quote reminds us that change doesn't require perfection, just a deep enough reason to begin. And often the reasons to change are born from discomfort, from the moment we realize that staying the same is costing us more than stepping into the unknown ever could. And I have been there. I have done that, and it's amazing. The change brings so much of beauty. Um, but I guess when we're not ready, when fear, resistance, or even doubt still has a stronger hold over us, we tend to believe stories. We tend to build stories and believe them. And, these stories are around our limitations. And often it's again, in our own heads. We tend to keep repeating those stories in a cycle. Things like, I don't have time, I'm not strong enough, I'll start when things calm down. These, well, these are not failures, but they are just signals, signs that something in us still needs safety, reassurance, or healing. And that is okay. But it's important to recognize that difference between real limitations and the ones we create to avoid discomfort. There's a difference. And we need to recognize that. We need to be aware of those. So I think the quote isn't about judgment, but it's about honesty. Are you making a way or making an excuse? Because the moment you decide you're ready, truly ready, you will find a way, even if that way begins with one teeny tiny trembling step. So I love this quote. And this brings me to another quote that, that is a little different. And here's the quote. Where in my life am I ready to find a way instead of an excuse?
Yeah, I love that. There's a lot of compassion in that too.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. But yeah, both the quotes resonate deeply with me.
Yeah.
So next up is creating a new script as self-talk. Um, I, there are 5 gentle tips that you can choose to, if work with. Um, One is notice the narrative without judgment. Before you can change your self-talk, become aware of it. What are the common phrases you say to yourself? Are those things like, "Oh, I always mess up. Am I not, or I'm not good enough?" These gently notice these patterns without shame, without judgment. So awareness is the first act of love. Second is ask yourself, would I say this to someone I love? If your best friend or child came to you in pain, would you say that to, what would you say? What would you tell them? What would you say the same things that you tell yourself? Probably not. Use that as a filter to pause and redirect your words toward kindness and understanding. Another one is creating a new inner script in your own voice. You can maybe write down 3 to 5 phrases that reflect the kind of support you wish you'd always received. Example, I'm allowed to grow at my own pace. It's safe to be exactly where I am. My worth isn't tied to productivity. Say these out loud or write them down daily. Let your nervous system get used to hearing them. Fourth is practice daily, not perfectly. Rewriting your inner dialogue is a practice and not a one time fix for sure. Some days it'll come naturally, others you may fall back into old patterns, and that's all right. Every time you catch yourself and gently shift your words, you are healing. The fifth one is speak to the you that's still healing. Visualize the younger or more vulnerable version of yourself. What does he or she need to hear today? Speak to them, love them, let them
Love
know
that.
that they're safe, seen, and never alone again. As we are wrapping up this conversation, I would like to thank you for tuning into this episode of Soulful Conversations with Mel and me. And if this resonated with you, we'd love to hear your thoughts. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this episode with anyone who may need to hear it. Until next time, take care. Bye.
Bye.